Right.
Or
Sure.
laughing.
We're laughing. And Amy's here.
Hey, Serge.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi, Serge. Oh, there you are. Nice
Oh,
shirt.
the shirt.
I love that
Oh,
shirt.
nice shirt. Show it
Toasty.
again. Show it
Hey,
again.
show again. That's a great shirt.
Put it
You
on again.
do you love
Serge.
Hawaiian shirts too, Serge? Because I got a bunch of them. I love wearing my Hawaiian shirts to work.
Only in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. In summer.
In fact,
Nice.
at work, when they did my evaluation about 2 months ago, that's one thing the supervisor commented on is I'm the best dressed person there.
Nice.
So I kind of like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too, bro. Because I kind of get that too. I always wear nice stuff to work.
Yeah, they don't say that about me. Sorry.
Well, that's because they're not seeing your soul. There you go.
Yeah. I try to be presentable. Let's put it that way.
Be nice to see Ellen or Alan and Reed on here.
Well, they all know what time it is, but they
Here we
should be coming
go.
up shortly.
Hello.
Hello.
Veronica. Hello.
No.
Hi, everybody.
Is it really Veronica?
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Oh, good.
The Veronica.
Good to be with you all.
Hey, Susan, how are you?
I think this is going to be my first time listening to Kris on the beach. This will be fun.
You're on the beach listening to Kris? Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
we're heading out to Newport Beach.
Oh, man.
Can you spread that?
How
towel
nice.
Build a sandcastle, would you?
Oh, no, after he's done, I'm going body surfing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Daniel, can you spread that beach towel a little more? There's a whole bunch of us coming in.
That's right.
Get it
You
big,
got
buddy.
it. We'll bring extras.
Oh.
Make mine a daiquiri.
Oh. If you come here, you can share it, but of course, no California air here.
That's what's in the morning. They make it a Bloody Mary.
Yeah,
I like the menu.
you have to try the Bloody Caesar. Never mind the Bloody Mary.
You only have that in March.
Somebody's got a radio on?
Not on.
Hello?
I've heard of WD-40, but not WG-40. Amy, you fix houses. What's WG-40?
Boy, I don't know.
Look at that moniker. I wouldn't want to write that on a check.
Perhaps we should welcome whomever that is.
Yes.
Who are you?
Who is it with WG40U60CW R2D2 C3PO?
That might be me.
Yeah, that is you.
Oh, it is you.
Come on.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
Yeah, you lit up. Speak again.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Well,
No.
who is it?
Because Daniel, you're known as Daniel here.
Well, it might be
Who
Reed
might-
because he's the only one that doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
Is that you, Reed?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Hey, man.
How you been, pal?
Been good. How about you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Playing music, my brother. You know me, man.
Have you changed your name to NS9213?
Well, that's for Norfolk Southern. That's one of my favorite engines that I was on a few times. And
All right.
it didn't. It kicked me out when I said Brian Farrell. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
America's Most Wanted list.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm. Wanted in a lovely way, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
I know Marcos went out to visit Alan not too long ago.
Well, Alan went into the room, the Zoom room at 4:30.
That'd be great to have Alan on board and Marcos and Ellen too. Anybody throw it out to Alan?
Yeah, Ellen said she might be on.
That'd be cool. The old gang.
Well,
Figuratively,
yeah,
Serge.
thank you.
Figuratively, the old
Yeah,
gang.
thank you. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if Ellen might be working, if I remember.
Hmm.
How are things, Serge?
Yeah, she said that she's got to work.
Okay. I believe Reed just asked you something, sir.
I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said, how are things?
Pretty good. It's hot here.
Yeah. Yeah. Time of the year for that.
Yep, and especially here, my apartment faces west, and the sun sets in the west, so it's right in the windows. I have 2 layers of sunblock, and you see how bright it still is.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't have just curtains; there's sunblock.
Yeah. Like blackout curtains.
Pretty well, yeah. It doesn't black out anything.
I face west also, Serge, my apartment.
Uh-huh.
And it's all red brick outside here, so that those babies heat up and hold the humidity and the heat. I mean,
Here, the buildings. There's 5 buildings. They're all made of yellow brick, so it's a little bit better. But still, the sun is right in here.
mm-hmm. Good for plants.
Well, up to a certain degree. If I did not have the block, the sun would literally burn the plants.
Whoa.
Because
And you.
my plants are mostly tropical house plants, so they are under cover.
Mm.
Hey, Lisa.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Lise.
Yeah, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, Serge, your voice seems a little bit low to me. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that way.
I noticed it too, Serge. It is
Yeah.
low.
Yeah, I did too.
Hold on a second there. How's that?
Better.
Can you hear more?
Say it again. Talk again.
How is that? Is that better?
That is better.
That's better. If you want to come up just a hair.
Here, I pulled up a hair. How's that? Well, we'll just give it a couple more minutes and then I don't know if
Tiger and Chuck coming on?
I have no clue.
Amy, doesn't Roberta have a Wednesday night circle? I think she does, doesn't she?
Sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just wondering if I can make somebody a backup.
I can.
Who said that?
Amy.
Amy? Okay.
Yeah, I got the computer on.
Okay, so I'll allow you to record. Oh, it's not showing it. Hold on. Oh, okay. Okay, so as soon as you hit your record button, it'll work. I
Okay.
think.
Got it. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there, I see it now. Because usually I see a little record icon besides your name.
Yep, I see it.
So since the video is already recording, I'll just go ahead and go ahead.
Okay.
Good.
And could we ask everybody to mute while
Yes.
Kris is talking, please?
Right.
Okay. It's Wednesday, August 14th, 2019, International Session with Kris. And it is 7:40 Eastern Time.
Now we trust that you are all comfortable.
We are.
Thank you for your consideration.
We thank you, Kris.
Now, this evening, no one has to give a summary. How fortunate you all are.
Indeed, we are.
So we would like to simply ask if any of you have an interesting question. Now, you did not think you would simply come here and sit there listening to some old dead guy give a sermon of some kind. So feel free to.
Okay, I'll start. I was just looking at a video, Kris, that was done not too long ago up in Caledon at the Victoria Garden Healing Arts Studio. And the person that was speaking to you at the time felt that she had learned a lot from you, especially around the idea of desiring something, whether it's health, relationship, finances, et cetera, and still felt she didn't quite understand the idea of resistance. So while she's been doing everything that the New Age community has talked about for years now, about manifesting, what she's come to believe with you, as many of us in this community have, is that some very core, deep beliefs may be impeding our ability to manifest what we want. And I just wondered if you could speak to the idea of resistance.
It would indeed be our pleasure. And such an answer would necessitate an understanding of the difference between what you need and what you want. And most often, the idea of wanting is based upon the notion that you do not have, and that you might not have, and you will not have, unless you put in this want. In terms of an analogy, we will utilize one of our most often used one of baking a cake. So you want to bake a cake. Basically, you want to eat a cake, which is something you do not have at that moment, correct?
Yes.
So you may shop around for some kind of a cake to buy, or you may buy the ingredients so that you will bake the cake yourself. So this still implies that you do not have it, but you are closer to it. When you decide to buy the ingredients, put them together, and put the ingredients turned into a batter into the pan and then into the oven. You have a basic understanding that you need to leave the cake in the oven for at least 30 to 35 minutes at the recommended temperature, whether it is 300, 325, or something of that nature. Constantly checking, opening the oven door, checking to see if the cake is ready yet, will give you what?
Not the cake I want.
Indeed, it will not give you a cake. It may give you something that looks like a cake, but is not a cake.
Cake soup.
Or something inedible. So there needs to be this distinction between what you may think is absolutely wanted by yourself and what is needed. And it is no disrespect to the wants of life. Many of you go and actually get what you want. You want to eat out, you want to go see a movie, you want to make friends, you want to make love, you want to go for a drive. But there are other categories of wants that in the long run may not be beneficial. And to base the entire notion strictly upon your conscious understanding or your conscious ideas that obviously this want will definitely be good for you because you want it, may in itself represent a kind of resistance, a pushing back in an unhealthy way to the point where you basically twist your knickers fighting for what you want because you still do not have it. Very, very often, especially in the notion of baking the cake, the best thing to do is put the thing in the oven and leave it alone. Leave it for that 30 or 35 minutes. Now, utilizing the analogy of baking a cake is rather simplistic and may not do justice to some of the greater wants of life. But it is also important to dig deeper and ask yourself, why may I want something that I simply cannot get, that simply seems to elude me, I cannot grab onto it? Some situations may involve certain values, considering one's own self-worth, sense of worth, sense of accomplishment, to the point where pushing for the want seems to be a symptom of a perhaps deeper, unresolved situation. So it is not simply that one may follow certain rules or certain laws of some kind, and after a certain number of days, of course, the thing, the situation, the condition will simply appear. When it does not come as anticipated, then it warrants looking deeper into oneself, a deeper layer of introspection, of questioning. Not questioning one's sense of self-worth, but actually questioning, why do I sense a great need that getting the thing that I want will somehow or other fulfill me, when obviously It may not be doing that at all. And it may even bring a certain sense of failing at the situation, which has nothing to do with the information or the knowledge, but may actually have to do with the deeper sets of beliefs that are held. And we do not want to say at the subconscious level, because it is often interpreted to mean that it is beyond reach, because the knowledge is held in the conscious mind. It is simply refused. It is refuted. It basically means that the individual, any individual may say, look at their subconscious. Do you mind getting out of my way because you are interfering with my want? All the time being, the subconscious, the inner self, may be trying to alert you that you are opposing your own self-interest in this way. So it warrants a deeper layer of introspection, of self-questioning, especially to invite, whether you call it your subconscious or inner self, to bring answers. Is what I want absolutely the best for me? Or is there something else that I can and need to look at? So this kind of inquiry starts digging into the deeper layers of the opposition that you are offering yourself. When the answers are recognized instead of being refuted, then there is often the recognition, the awakening to the fact that there is something even greater that is awaiting me, and I will go for that. The idea of putting all of one's eggs in the one basket, as you know, can lead to some difficulties. Do you follow?
Yes, I certainly do.
And again, it is not a
Thank you.
failing of the individual. It is simply because the situation, as we suggested at some time recently, is tantamount to looking at the inside of a room, but only through the keyhole, missing 90% of the contents involved. Do you follow?
Yes, I do. You've often referred to that, or I feel.
We must iterate that this is no fault of the individual, that there is no blame here. It is a matter of widening the scope of one's own education in this respect. Now, do continue.
I was going to say totally. Yes, that deep excavation into core beliefs. They've been hidden for most of my life because of conditioning, and I really appreciate the journey of trying to figure out what is it that really best serves me. Mm-hmm.
Core beliefs, in and of themselves, are usually not hidden in the deep recesses of the mind due to some conditioning, though the conditioning is a factor. Focusing only on the conditioning does tend to make the individual look away from the needed keys or doorways to get out of the situation. Your entire educational system, your entire society wants you only to focus on what it tells you to focus upon. It does not instruct nor inspire you to look deeper within as such, to explore the contents of your mind, but only to pay to the attention of the contents of your environment, as if all of the answers are somehow or other given to you and do not search for the answers, because we will give you the answers. And those answers simply keep you anchored into the lack of trust, lack of self-worth, and so on and so forth. So your own deeper investigation is an intuitive nature. It is based upon the intuitive exchange that naturally arises from examining the contents of your mind. Contents of the mind is the beliefs that you hold. Just like the contents of your living room are symbolic of the contents of your belief. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
So there is always a sweetness attached to the notion, or that comes with the notion of recognizing that the beliefs are not hidden deep in the recesses of the unconscious. They are, in fact, in plain sight. But one simply has to develop the eyes to see them, the ears to hear them. Yes? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Might there be some other inquiries? We should also note that any inquiry in this way about the nature of one's own mental and emotional and belief contents requires a certain kind of bravery. Bravery in the sense of going against the established notions, the established beliefs, and literally dealing with self and the reality that is created in terms of being one's own boss, the boss of one's own reality. So that requires bravery. It requires strength. It requires sometimes dealing with rather unpleasant inner situations and stresses. But once these are recognized, then certainly there is a strength that comes from knowing that you create all of the situations that manifest themselves in your life. So the idea here is to want to be in charge of one's reality 100%. Not only when things go right, but also when things seem to go awry. Now, does anyone else have an inquiry?
Kris, hi. I was wondering, I've gotten interested in alchemy recently, and I was wondering if anyone has ever used mystical techniques from alchemy to actually become enlightened.
So there were two kinds of alchemists. The ordinary alchemist, who sought the magical formula, the magical incantation, the right elements to turn lead into gold. At that very basic premise, you are dealing with the physical, materialistic approach. There was another kind of alchemist, the alchemist who came to realize through his and sometimes her studies, but mostly his, that the entire process was a metaphor for turning one's more basic human elements and transforming them into the golden or the divine elements. Knowing that one's inner reality is far more important than one's outer reality, but that ultimately there needs to be a balance of the two realms, if you like. So the inner alchemist was also often a teacher, an instructor, a mage, who sought to educate the pupil or pupils, students, into the finer arts of the metaphorical transformation of the basic man element into the divine element. So this was its ultimate purpose. Basically, another means to elevate one's consciousness into the greater or divine realm, to see the world and the basic elements as the tools of transformation for humankind, to acquiesce the divine knowledge, the knowledge of the angels and the divine beings. Does that make some sense to you?
Yes, absolutely.
So many such approaches are found throughout all the mystical arts in one way or another, to transform the basic elements of humankind and to allow that humankind to reclaim their divine heritage and thus recognize for themselves that they truly were the creators of their reality. And there have been many, many teachers and speakers in all manner of the divine and occult arts and metaphysics who have touched upon these issues in many different ways, utilizing the vernacular, the language, the understanding of their times. And these are often forgotten, and many have been forgotten, but there are always some traces of this knowledge to be found. And they are found all over the world in all the teachings and spiritual writings, some of which are taken and transformed into a system to control individuals. But the core message, the seeds, still, when understood properly, for the metaphorical experience, can lead to a greater realm of knowledge and understanding about one's human and divine nature. One does not exist at the expense of the other. They coexist. The human, the physical experience being and transformative communication from the inner self, a means for the inner self to fully understand the scope and the breadth and the width and the height and the depth of its journey with a different kind of concept. And you are all expressions of that which you sometimes do not necessarily know. Especially when you fall prey to your own sensed or misinterpreted iniquities, flaws or failures of some kind, that you think somehow or other the universe today is out to get you, that it will trip you up. We suggest in such circumstances that you take stock, take inventory of what you are filling your mind with, because you believe your mind, you believe your ideas in this way. Therefore, you give energy to situations you do not want. And instead, give energy to the situations you do want, those of being happy and fulfilled. Work on that first. And those situations that are meant to complement your happiness will be drawn into your life. Does that answer your inquiry?
Yes. I could follow question if unless anyone else has a question they'd like to go into, I don't need to follow up. Would anybody else like to change the topic?
No, only to add something before you ask your next question to what Kris has just said, if you don't mind.
Of course.
One of the offerings of Kris over the last year, if not much longer, has been for me to, no matter what situation, to find a way to get into a feeling tone of joy, and then let my deep self, just as you said, Kris, deliver what it is that what I want, what I desire, because she knows me much more than I know me. And I am finding evidence of that. That's, and I'm remembering it more often too, that I need to go, that I want to go to that place, a joyfulness, even though I'm feeling like, you know what. So yeah, I wanted to build on what Kris just said, that I certainly am experiencing evidence that this works.
So let us put it
And I'm done.
with a different kind of analogy. So when you go fishing, you put bait on the hook. The bait is something the fish are attracted to, whether it is a little piece of corn, a worm, a small minnow, a piece of bread. You put it at the end of your hook, you cast your line out into the waters, and then you slowly start reeling it in, anticipating that any moment now you will feel a tug on your fishing line, meaning that the fish has taken the bait. And when you do feel that tug once or twice, you quickly pull back, and then you start reeling in your fish. It could be a small fish, it could be a big fish, but you luxuriate in the thrill of that sensation. The fisherman enjoys that. Now, the fisherman may decide to keep the fish for food or throw it back into the waters. But the analogy simply illustrates that you know something the fish wants, so you put it at the end of the hook, some food, something that will titillate them, tantalize them, want them to take that bait. In your own ways, when you are feeling downtrodden, somehow or other kicked at the curb, you have allowed the situation that is a reflection of some things that you do not want into life to come into your sphere of experience. So instead of wallowing in it, acting and feeling like a victim, only bringing more of the same to you, stop right where you are. Full brakes ahead, complete stop. Know that somehow or other, you have gone in a place you do not want to go to. So then go for a fishing trip, if you like. You want a situation that brings you happiness, it brings you joy. So pretend in your mind's eye that you are putting the bait on the hook, a little piece of corn, a bread, a worm, any kind of bait. In terms of an analogy, make sure it contains joy of some kind. A little bit of joy, something you remember that is joyful. Then cast it out to the universe. And pay attention as you reel it back in for those few little tugs on the line that will tell you that the universe is responding now. It has taken the bait and you bring it in. You land that state of joy. By this time, you will have forgotten whatever little elements had pissed you off of some way. Give it up and embrace what you have just brought into your life right now. That's a nice memory of something joyful or an experience that brings you happiness and will lead to more of the same. Misery loves its own company, but so does joy and happiness. It all depends what kind of company you want to keep. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Great. Love the idea of the bait. Mm-hmm.
So now we take it that everyone is going to go fishing.
And then I think, Reed, you had a question. Another question.
How are we doing on time, Kris?
Do proceed.
Okay. Well, how about this? Can you tell me anything about the emerald tablets of Thoth or Thoth and their origin?
This may take a little longer, but we will try to summarize. We will try to bring this into as few words as possible, even though it might be long.
Thank you.
Whether you are speaking about Atlantis, and whether Atlantis is in the past, in the future, or an alternate reality. Whether the tablets of Thoth or others are fake, are hoaxes, are real, or not. As we have suggested in the past, everything that is experienced in your reality, everything, not just that which is concrete physical evidence, but even that which is viewed as alternative reality, and we are not including alternative truth in here, is based upon a series of ideas, some which have taken hold in one way or another very strongly in your particular experience of reality, and others that have not, but that may still exist in one form or another in the context of dream time, and that can still impart knowledge, but is interpreted in real time, because these are words you utilize and you understand, but they are interpreted in such a fashion that leads to a questionable outcome only from the point of view of your reality. Even what you might consider absolute truths in this reality are just another set of interpretations of ideas to which you have given, both individually and collectively, you have given energy and time to. So whether you consider the pyramids of Egypt, the Eiffel Tower, Statue of Liberty, the way the continents are formed on your world, the way your world is formed, the way your world may have originated or not, whether that world was banged into existence or not, all of it are ideas that you find collectively and individually suitable to one degree or another to fit a particular narrative at one plane of existence, the layer of the ego. So there is, or are, other layers of reality that have completely different experiences. The emerald tablets of Thoth are another kind of teaching about the mechanics and engineering of reality creation, but in another plane of existence altogether. There are bleed-throughs, there are runoffs from one reality system to another, from one alternative system to another, in all manner imaginable. What exists in your world may not exist in another. What exists in another may not exist here. What exists in another may partially be existing here, because you are giving it some form. You are giving it form, substance. You are giving it energy. In another reality, you are less prone to give it energy, but other beings are giving it energy. In your world, you see and experience what you call unidentified flying objects and aliens. And there are many conspiracies about this, most of them blown out of proportion. But that does not mean there are no visitors to your reality. It also implies that if your world has visitors from other systems and other realities, they also have visitors from your system. So let that sink in for a moment. And the visitors that may come here and the visitors from here that go there are not necessarily physical. Think of many of the dream experiences that you have, where you may see beings that are not necessarily completely physical, or that may exhibit some qualities that are not specifically physical either. These may be your interpretations of visitors from other systems, where you might vaguely recall traveling in some foreign place that is not particularly identifiable in any way that you might have learned of, may imply that you are visiting another one of those systems. That is how you are interpreting it. And they may view you as something a little bit ghostly, a little bit alien-like. Does that make some sense to you?
Absolutely. Please continue.
All systems are open to varying degrees. There are some systems that's so foreign to you, they would be completely unimaginable, and you would not even visit them, because they are outside of the scope of your understanding of physics in any way, shape, or form. And some of them are so removed from what you know, even essence itself would not go there, simply because they exist outside of the scope of anything that is understandable. And simply because one is essence does not necessarily mean that all systems within and outside of time and space are actually available for visiting, for introspection, and so on. And your system of reality may be so removed from other systems, to them, you do not exist. There is nothing to impress upon them that such a system of yours actually exists. So you like to, not you specifically, but you like to sometimes claim that ghosts do not exist. Unfortunately, some ghosts do not think you exist. We trust you get the point of that joke.
Yes, I was laughing with the mute on.
Does anyone else have any interesting inquiry? So then let us throw this in your court. You are multi-dimensional selves. You exist in a variety of space-time continuums. Your space-time continuum is but one river of many that flow through various systems. You have reincarnational selves, which are merely other selves of yours, in other historical periods, other time periods, and sometimes other spaces. Look to your dreams. Ask your dream self to very nicely open the doors of perception to what some of your other selves are up to. This does not imply you have to fix or heal or reintegrate any kind of selves. The entire notion of that is rather missing the target. What is important is that you broaden your horizons, that you come to know a bit more of your own skills and resources and wisdom, innate wisdom, how your consciousness transforms or manifests itself in a different way, so that you can also grow. Some television series and movies like to say that the truth is out there, but the truth is out there, and the truth is in there too. It is in you, because you create all of those realities. Your imagination knows no boundaries. The only boundaries that exist are the ones you have insisted upon. When you were young, how many times are you told, get real? Start to grow up. It is time to leave the childhood behind. So you do just that, as you were told. You begin to cut off the fields of your imagination. You literally clear cut the unending forest of your imagination. You strip it bare of anything that does not fit the norm, and in this way, you fit in to the society And as you grow older, you begin to miss that something, which is what you cut off before. So these types of exchanges with you, with many other sources, including ourselves, is to recognize what you have left behind and to seek it again. Not that it is lost, but that you simply put it out of your mind. It still exists there, but you have locked the cabinet. Does all of this make sense to you?
Yes.
So by all means, do continue to pursue, to search, but always know the one thing, the only thing that exists. Nothing else exists but ideas, the ideas that you give your attention to, that you give energy to. Anything that comes into your mind, you have put there, and then you give it energy, you believe it. You believe that you are inadequate, insufficient, unloved, unlovable. You are a failure, you are a this, you are a victim, you are a that. What if you began to give attention and energy to something entirely different? Something empowering and fulfilling? Stop believing your own put-downs and start believing in your own upliftment, your own enrichment and fulfillment. Start believing in your own divine nature. Is there perhaps one last inquiry or comment, observation? Feel free. Then we thank you for your lovely consideration. Something to add, Myrna?
I wanted to thank you for tonight. I appreciate you making yourself available. Lovely.
It is always a pleasure. You see, when we were speaking about putting the bait on the hook, casting it out into the waters, we do the same. Ponder that. Thank you for your consideration, and return Joseph to your lovely sails.
Thanks, Kris.
Thank you.
Kris.
That was great. How was that for you?
So we're,
Oh, sorry.
no, I was going to say, so we're caught on a hook.
Yep.
They brought us in. Oh, cute. Lovely. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Serge. This was lovely.
Yes, thank you very much.
So it was a good chat.
Oh,
Very good.
yes.
Very good.
Cool.
Very nice.
Maybe we could have more of these.
Yeah, lovely.
It's very nice.
Okay, thank you. I'll send the video, and I know now how to put it on YouTube. And once it's up, I'll send the link.
Great.
Lovely.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hey, just a minute.
Bye.
Nobody had a camera on. Except me. Huh.
Right.
Next time.
Because
Next time.
Well, he uses bandwidth. doesn't he?
Okay, I'm going to stop the video. And I'm
Thank
going
you,
to
dear.
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.